Hey everybody, it's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. Well, this morning we're going to make some strawberry jelly using the juice that I showed you guys that I got out of my strawberries last week using my steam juicer. Today I'm going to be using my steam canner, which is a hot water bath canner, and I'm going to be using another product instead of the small boxed pectin. I buy mine in bulk, and this is just one example. There's other. This is just the packaging from the one that I got. I've purchased this from Amazon before, and I've purchased it from the Amish store that we have in Shoto. And sometimes when you get it at the Amish store, it won't be packaged like this. It'll be just like in a clear package that they buy bulk, and then they break it down in smaller amounts. And I feel like that their prices are pretty fair and pretty comparable if you have opportunity to shop at their stores. But this is available on Amazon, and it's just pectin. It's what it is. And you use this just as you would use the boxed pectins, your recipes that you have. This stuff will work in those recipes. You just substitute this for the box, and this is going to use about 6 tablespoons of this. Is comparable to the box of pectin. Now that's the regular pectins, not the like Pomonas or anything like that. Just regular boxed pectin that you get at the store. And I like being able to do this because it assures me that I have something on my pantry shelf that anytime that I want to can, even in the wintertime, if I want to make a batch of jelly or something, I always have access to this, where I don't always have access to the small boxes because a lot of that stuff is considered seasonal and they don't carry it in the wintertime. But this was a way for me to ensure that I always have something. And I have just a little bit left in this bag, but what I've done is repackaged it into canning jars and used my food saver to seal them so that I can ensure that it stays fresh. The other thing that I'll be using today is this cookbook, or canning book, I'm sorry. I like the Ball canning book. I like all the canning books really, but I know for sure that the recipes in this Amish canning book, I really trust the recipes in here, and I like a lot of the recipes in here, and also the Ball canning book. But today I'm going to be using this one, and I'm going to go over all of the ingredients that you're going to need. Not very many at all, and we're going to get some really pretty red strawberry jelly that's going to taste good on biscuits or toast or whatever you decide to put it on. Okay, well, let's get started. You're going to need a 6 to 8 quart pan to put this in. You want to, it's not going to be a whole lot of juice and stuff in your pot, but you want to make sure that you have something, because as your jelly begins to come together and begins to boil, it's going to rise up, and you don't want it to roll out of that pan. That's going to be a terrible mess if you have hot molten jelly running all over the place. So make sure that you have a big enough pot to put that in. Now it looks, mine is deep enough for what I'm making. Now you do not want to make more than one batch of jelly at a time. I know you guys can't see my head, but we're here for the jelly, right? Okay, so you don't want to make any more than one batch of jelly at a time. I know that it seems like it's time consuming to have to make a batch of jelly, wash up your pots, start all over again. But you will not get what you're looking for if you try to make multiple batches at once. Make one, then make another. In the long run, you'll be happy that you did that. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to put in the pot is my juice. And this is the strawberry juice that we made the other day in the steam juicer. And I am going to add 3.5 cups of this strawberry juice to the pan. Now you want to have all your ingredients measured ahead of time. Don't, put this together and start making it, and then realize that you haven't measured up your sugar yet, because you'll get in a mess if you do that. Make sure that you've got your sugar and everything else measured out so that you can keep going with your recipe once you've got it started. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my fire, get it going. Okay, now that we've got our strawberry juice in the pan, we're going to begin to add our other ingredients. Now, this in this little bowl is 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Now, this is going to help enhance the flavor, and it's going to help preserve. So it goes into the pot. I'm going to put a tablespoon of butter. Now, you don't have to do this. This is just to help with foaming, but you put this in there. And all it's going to do is cause any of the foaming is going to adhere with that butter at the top of the jelly when it's done, and we'll be able to take it off. It's not going to affect, I know the recipes say don't add butter, don't add flour, don't add noodles, and that's all true. But when you're making jelly, for it to, if you're concerned about the foam, you can use just 1 tablespoon of butter, and it will mix with the things that makes the foam, and you'll be able to take it off the top, and then we'll be able to can our jelly, and it'll be a nice pretty product all the way from the bottom of the jar to the top. Okay, so that's the butter. The next thing I want to put in there is 6, well, if you use box pectin, you'll use a box of pectin. I'm using that the bulk, so I'm using 6 tablespoons, and I'm just going to put it in there now. And then we're just simply going to stir it in. Now, of course, when you add this to that, your pot, your strawberry juice now looks kind of milky, so to speak. And I know that it's hard for y'all to see in that pot, but it's gonna look milky to us. Now you want to stir this constantly until it comes up to a full rolling boil. And a full rolling boil means a boil that cannot be stirred down. You know, when you're making something and you stir it and it quits bubbling, that's not what they're talking about when they say a full rolling boil. It is when you go in to stir it and you can't stir the bubbles down, it keeps bubbling. Now keep in mind that this is going to be extremely hot, especially after you add the sugar. You want to keep your hands as far back as you can, so you want to make sure that you're using a tool, a spoon, a whisk, whatever you're using, so that it doesn't splash and bubble on you. Also, if you see that it's going to boil over, take your pan off of the fire, move it off the fire, and that'll usually get it to go back down. You cannot walk away from this. I can't stress that enough. You'll have a mess, or somebody will get burned. I don't have any little ones in the house right now, but in the future I will, come December. But if you got little ones in the house, you need to be very careful that they don't get up here and get burned by this, because it's delicious jelly, of course, but it's going to be extremely hot. And be careful for yourself too. That's my public safety service announcement for the day. Be careful when you're cooking this jelly, because you'll burn yourself. Okay, so we're just simply going to let this, I'm going to stir this, and when it comes to a full rolling boil, I'll show you what it looks like right now. Can you see in there? It's just simply cooking away right now. Now it won't be long and it'll start bubbling, and when it gets to a full rolling boil, I'll bring you back and we'll add the sugar. Thought I'd show you this. Now, a lot of people think this is it, but it's not. It's still able to be stirred down. I'm having to stir with my left hand here and hold the camera with my right hand, and I am right-handed, so this is kind of difficult. But you see that it's starting to bubble. Now you see that foam? The butter is going to help with that, and I'll show you after this all comes together what you do. It's not ruined, I promise. We are there. This cannot be stirred down, even if you really get going with your whisk or spoon, whatever you're using. The bubbles are staying. It is good to go. It's at a full rolling boil. And so now it's time to add the sugar. Now I'm going to have to put you back on the camera stand because I need both hands for this. Okay, so it is time to add the sugar, and you want to be very careful. Don't just, slop it in there so that you're going to burn. But you add that sugar. Now, when you get your sugar added, it's going to go back down to not boiling very much. And so you're going to stir this, let your sugar melt. And when it comes back to a full rolling boil, then you are going to turn your timer on and time it for 1 minute exactly. Once that 1 minute is up, you'll be able to finish up your product, the jelly. At that time, if we have any foam, it'll be the time to take it off, and then we will continue to get these in the jars. Now I've got my steam canner right here, and I've got my jars in there, and they're good and hot, and I'll be able to fill these. Now, according to the recipe, this is supposed to make 3 pints, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but I have a 1.5 gallons of juice, and I used 3.5 cups. So I have a lot that I can make. I'm not going to can it though in pint jars. I'm going to can it in 1/2 pints, jelly jars, 8-ounce jars, and so that if I want to share with others, and I will, then I can send products home with people, and I love sharing with the family. Okay, when this comes back to a full rolling boil, I'll turn the timer on and I'll show you guys. We're there, guys, and this goes pretty fast. This can't be stirred down, so I'm going to set my timer for 1 minute. Now see how it's bubbling up here? This is why you want a big pan, because you can have problems, and I may have to set mine off the burner, and if I do, I'll show you what I was talking about when it bubbles up. Now I've got room now, but it has to go for a full minute. You want to, make sure that you go a minute and not over the minute. Turn your fire off and get the cooking process stopped as far as it boiling. Now it's going to be molten hot. I want to make sure I stress that. But just keep stirring. Make sure that you keep it stirred, and that's going to help too with it boiling. But now if it gets close to the top, make sure that you're ready to move your pan if you need to. We're getting close here, and I'm within seconds of my timer going off, and we'll be ready to do the next process. Okay, there's my timer. Turn my heat off. I'm going to move it over just a little bit off the flame. You can see it takes it a minute to start going down. Now, It doesn't look like I'm going to have much that I have to take off of there. That is what the butter will do, is to help you not be able, or to help you in the reduction of foam. But now I have had jelly batches before that I really had to take a foam layer off the top of them, and the butter was always able to help me do that. Okay, so I'm going to put you back on the camera stand, and we'll jar this jelly up. It's ready to go. So we're going to ladle this into the jars. Remember, this is extremely hot. Okay, now I have my lids in hot water ready to go, and I've got my bands, and I've also got this wet paper towel, because you want to wipe the tops of your jars just to make sure that there's no sticky residue on there, so that your lids will adhere the proper way. This is a chopstick, and I'm just simply going to use it in this jar of jelly to make sure, just really quick, that there's no bubbles. And then I'm going to once again wipe this lid really good and clear. Put my lid on, put the ring on, and I'm going to put it in the steam canner. Get another jar out, and we're just simply going to repeat the process. We'll get a little bit more. Put this pan back over here too. I hope I'm not blocking y'all's able to see what I'm doing here. I'll do this one, and then I'll get them filled, and I'll show you the canner. Okay, once again, I'm just going to make sure that there's not any bubbles. Move that out of the way to make sure that you guys can see this little jelly jar. And okay, wipe this jar, make sure that it's good and clean. Get another lid. And get it into the canner. I'll be back when I get the rest of those filled, and I'll share the next step. Okay, I've got the jellies, 6 half pints of them, in the steam canner, and I'm going to put my lid on. Now, for my altitude where I'm at, this jelly has to go once the steam canner reaches. I have a dial gauge on the top of my canner, and once it reaches the required temperature, the required steam, then I will have it in here for 5 minutes. Now, your altitude, as your altitude changes, your time changes, so make sure you know what your altitude is, so that you're canning properly. 6 half pints of strawberry jelly, ready for a biscuit or a piece of toast. It's already set up really well. I've been out in the garden, and so they've had time to cool off, and they've They've set well. I've never been disappointed with this, with the powdered pectin. And like I said, I buy it in bulk, and I get it from Amazon or the Amish and Mennonite stores that we have that aren't too far away from us. So you might give this a try. It's something that you could have in bulk, have on your pantry shelf, and not have to worry about finding the boxes if you're making jelly out of season. Until next time, guys, this is Josie. Have a good day. I love you. We're gone.